Good evening, everyone. It's really a delight to be here, and I'd first like to thank my sibling from Manila for her very lovely welcome and introduction. But I'd also just like to acknowledge Ayako, her beautiful playing. Wasn't that magnificent? Something really incredibly special. In fact, I used to play the violin when I was young, but my career stopped after just a few months. Just being here tonight in this really special atmosphere, I would really love to have a heart-to-heart conversation. Just like we're sitting in a lounge room with friends, because I wonder how you're traveling in the journey of life. I wonder how you're managing, how you're feeling deep inside. I think life today is throwing up one challenge after another. Would you agree? I'm seeing a lot of nodding heads. Sometimes from the wider world, sometimes from the country, sometimes from the workplace, perhaps many times from the family, and probably most often from myself. And I really have the fortune in my life to travel a lot and talk to a lot of people. And these days I hear from the hearts of so many that it seems like I deal with one challenge, and just when I begin to manage that, another one comes in my way. And on top of that, I have my family, my friends, my dear ones, my loved ones, and they're also facing their challenges, and they want support from me also. The human spirit has extraordinary resilience, but from what I'm hearing as I move around, many are feeling worn down by this constant tsunami, if I can use that language, of issues and challenges in life. We want to step up. We want to step into that person I know I can be, but sometimes we feel quite stuck and trapped. And recently I was talking to a woman in Australia, a young woman, a young mother actually, with 3 small children. And she was sharing very openly with me that she was in an unhappy marriage, had financial problems, and inside was feeling quite angry and negative. And she contracted cancer in her early 30s. And that, in fact, she said, made her more angry and more negative. You know how sometimes you feel life has dealt me a bad card, it's really not fair. But when she sort of began to reflect and think more about herself, her life, her attitude, she realized that what she was telling me was that she had become a very negative person, and she blamed everybody for what was going on in her life. And she knew that if she was going to look after her 3 small children, she had to completely change her attitude. And she said that she really went into herself to see how she could become more positive. And she drew on an extraordinary resilience. And she told me with a very lovely smile on her face that in fact her life-threatening illness became her best friend, because it was the instrument to change her, move her out of a place, and to step up in her life to the person that she really wanted to be. And I have a feeling that all of us sitting here, we're all challenged in life, but all of us have this potential resilience to step up to a very elevated level, to deal and step into that higher person or that higher nature I know I can really withdraw. And some years ago, I was involved in a project called Global Cooperation for a Better World. And this happened in 120 countries of the world. And in this project, we asked people, what is your vision of a better self? What is your vision of a better community? And what is your vision of a better world? And it was quite amazing because it took part in some places that were war-torn, places of extreme poverty and desperate circumstances. But what we found is that everyone has a dream in their heart, no matter how difficult life circumstances are. You know how on the surface we can be quite cynical, quite pessimistic, quite hardened to the realities of life and how tough it can be. But when you dig deep, I found in the heart of every human being, we aspire to something greater. We have the hope to step in or step up to that person I really know I can be. And I think that a lot of the spiritual journey is about stepping from the place where I'm at now. Sometimes where I'm so absorbed in my limitation, my weakness, and my self-image is very negative in some ways. And to step into that, or step up to that person I really want to be. And I think to step out of self-dislike and step up to self-respect. To step out of unhappiness and step up to happiness. To step out of conflict and hurt that I carry in my heart and step up to loving relationships. To step out of the mentality of being a victim and step up to empowerment, my true sense of inner power. To step out of that vulnerable feeling and step up to a stage of resilience. Do you think it's possible? Do I sound too idealistic to you? I feel it's absolutely possible. But for me, on this journey, this wonderful spiritual journey we're all on, to step up into that place, the first step is in fact to step in. And I believe the reason we are in this situation, our world is like it is at the moment, is because we have disconnected from my true self. And I've lost my inner power. What is our culture today? What is the culture which we're living in today? I call it the outside-in culture. We look outside for everything I need inside. I look for you to love me. I look to my job to give me a sense of self-respect, that I have value in life. I look to wealth to give me a sense of security and peace of mind. But if you don't give me the love I feel you should, if my job changes, or if the economy begins to fail, what happens to my sources of all the things I need in my life? I go into so much upheaval. And this culture has bred a mentality that's so vulnerable, so weak, and so powerless, that often we feel we have absolutely no control over our overactive minds. Spirituality is the inside-out approach to life. I begin to understand that all my resources are inside. Everything I need in my life is inside. And wisdom is learning to draw on those resources so that I can step up in my life. I'm able to step up to the person that I really want to be. This inside-out approach is the approach that creates a sense of inner power and inner strength. And I would say this journey of stepping in, I feel, should be the first thing we learn at school. This huge question of life. The first question should be, who am I? Because when that question is answered, automatically I'm on the journey to self-growth and self-improvement. And when I begin to contemplate that question, I begin to think that I am the eternal self. The wonder of the self is that I am a soul, the spirit, the consciousness, the awareness. I, the soul, am just a point. And in mathematics, when they define a point exists, but it has no size, no length, breadth, or width. The soul is so subtle. I am the soul. I reside around the pituitary gland in the front of the brain, in the center of the forehead. I've entered this body, I've lived before, and I'm going to continue afterwards. And in a sense, on this journey of stepping up, I first have to step in, not just to know. 80% of the world believes there's something more than a physical body, but to begin to experience. And the journey of meditation is converting an idea, converting a belief, converting a concept into a deep, rich feeling inside. The aim of meditation, in fact, is not to be peaceful. The aim of meditation is to know and experience who I am. And automatically the fragrance, this lovely feeling, begins to wash my inner world. My thoughts begin to cool down, and I start to feel that lovely sense of inner calm, like coming home to a place inside where I really belong. So tonight, I would like to invite you to step in, to know and experience your inner self. Just for a few minutes, we will have a few moments of meditation. And can I ask you to put down phones and bags and papers and pens, and I'm just going to speak out a few thoughts, and let's travel together on the first journey, or the first step towards stepping up, which is stepping in to reconnect with who I really am. Let me sit comfortably and quietly. And in the eye of my mind, create the feeling that my mind is a sacred place. Just visualize your mind as a crystal clear bowl of absolutely still water. So clean, so pure. Just hold this image in your mind of the natural state internally. But there's gateways into my mind, my ears. I hear comments, I hear words, I let them in my ears, and it drives my thinking. My sacred space is disturbed. My eyes. I see people, behavior, situations. I let it enter my eyes into my sacred space. And I begin to overthink. The world is driving my mind. I've lost my inner power. But now I choose to create the thoughts I want. I take back my inner authority. What are the thoughts that will take my mind back to that still, clean, and peaceful place? These are thoughts of self-awareness. Just visualize yourself as a minute spark of life energy residing in the front of the brain, in the center of the forehead. This is I, the eternal soul. I am immortal, non-physical energy. But I forgot who I was. I began to identify with my temporary self, my body. But now, I begin to step back. Just feel yourself stepping back to this place of peace. Letting go, identifying with what I do, all my roles and responsibilities. Letting go, identifying with the image of my body, male or female or nationality. Just keep moving beyond. Even letting go, identifying with my past, what people have said, what people have done. I'm stepping back into my permanent original self. Just feel yourself sitting so lightly in the forehead. I am a peaceful soul. I am a peaceful soul. Just allow your mind to cool down and feel the fragrance of inner peace and inner power fill the core of your being. Thank you. First, I step in. First, I reconnect with who I am. Spirituality is to know and experience who I am. And this spiritual health very positively influences my mental health, my emotional health, even my physical health. But next I need to step out, and there's two very powerful shadows that are blocking the light of the inner self. And these two shadows are the energies that I need to step out of to be able to step up. The first is what I call the eye of arrogance, the eye of superiority. This is a personality that's taken all its power, if I can say, from thinking I'm a temporary body. This is a personality that identifies with all the labels of this body. And so I am male, female, Asian, European, attractive or unattractive, whatever it may be. And this personality is a very, very powerful personality. When it comes into my thinking, I begin to think, I am right, I am better, I know more. But when the ego, the eye of arrogance, the eye of superiority is ruling my inner kingdom, that's when I feel so easily insulted, disrespected, not valued, excluded, even sensitive, I would say. Is anyone here sensitive? Wow, Manila must be the most special place in the world. I think most of us are hypersensitive because sensitivity is a part of ego. So when the seed of my thinking is based on a falsehood, it grows a whole tree of wrong emotions, if I can say. So when the eye of arrogance, the eye of superiority is controlling my inner world, I have fear. I have fear that people will see through my facade, that I'm not so confident, I'm not as good as I look. But there's a deep relationship between love and fear, if I can say love and ego. The more ego I have, the less lovable I am. What is the role of ego? The role of ego is that it makes you feel separate. It makes you feel disconnected. It tells you you don't belong. It makes you feel, and it feels so real inside my head, but actually I'm being deceived by a false self that has been created because I've forgotten my true self. And so the more ego I have, I feel separate from my true self. I feel separate from God. There's a wonderful American psychiatrist, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and many of you may know her. She used to travel the world talking about grief. And she used to say that we all hold so much grief inside. And so when we lose somebody or something, it just opens this wound. But she said the original grief in the human spirit is this separation from God. And it's really my ego that has taken me away from that experience. It's my ego that makes me feel separate from others. I'm convinced in my head others don't want me, others don't really respect me, but actually it's a creation when my false self is ruling my inner world. So this shadow, the more I live in the awareness of my permanent self, the soul, the shadow of my ego begins to go away and the light begins to come through. But the second shadow is also a form of ego. But this is the ego of inferiority, the I of lack of self-respect. And this I also takes its whole identity from my temporary body and all the labels. And it thinks others are better, others know more, others are right, others don't love me, others don't respect me. It becomes a loud voice inside my head. And when it comes into my feelings, I sometimes feel hopeless, inadequate, unworthy, and if I can say, depressed. And depression in psychology is like a sadness that my dream in life to be loved, respected, and valued hasn't happened. But in spirituality, depression is like a mourning for the loss of my true identity. I'm living my life, but really, who am I? And so when the I of lack of self-respect rules my inner world, it's like I wear spectacles that create an illusion. I think people talk down to me. I'm convinced people don't respect me. And I hold these deep beliefs about myself that I'm not good enough. Others don't value or respect me. And so what happens is that when I forget my true self, these two shadows begin to take over my inner world. And I would say the second step is beginning to step out of the shadow of my ego and lack of self-respect and step into my original awareness of who I really am. My own experience that this is at the heart of the spiritual journey, not just when you meditate, but as you go about your life, this inner research to understand fundamentally that I'm a soul, a spiritual being. And as I do that inner research, I come home to this very sweet place inside where I feel so comfortable, so easy. I don't have to impress anybody. I don't have to look good. I don't have to create an image for the world. I become my authentic and true self. And so I would say that first I need to step in and know who I am. Second, I need to begin to remove the shadows of my ego and lack of self-respect. But third, I need to step up and experience true love. Often when people say to me, how would you describe a spiritual journey? To me, it's the journey towards a quality of love which we all search for. And I feel the subtext of human life is this search to find true love. Everyone sitting in this beautiful hall tonight, all of us invest our hearts in relationships. We give everything to our families. You think how much you've given. But there's a huge human dilemma, and that is that no relationship is permanent. Whether it's time, whether it's change, whether it's conflict, or whether it's death, the object of my love will go. And this creates so much insecurity within us. And this is why spirituality researches the one relationship that's permanent, which is I, the soul, and my connection with the Supreme Soul, or God. And this is the union, which is that power that reconnects me to my original value. I feel there's three sources of love. from myself first, from God, and from my family and friends. From myself, not much love coming. Most of us today, unfortunately, give ourselves a bit of a beating. We're very harsh. Our self-talk is very negative sometimes. We put ourselves down. Not all the time, but often. From God, I think many of us have a lot of faith in God. But do I really experience a rich, deep love that sustains and nurtures me? So my one source of love is my family and friends. So if there's an upheaval in the family, if there's a difference, if there's a falling out, it's like my life goes into chaos. What is spirituality? Spirituality is firstly recreating a rich, loving relationship with myself as a soul. And secondly, a rich, loving relationship with God. And when I lay that platform, I build a resilience in myself that can really face any situation in life. And I think that this union is the highest union of the mind. In fact, the word yoga means union. And it means really three things. I connect with God. When I connect, I'm influenced. And when I'm influenced, I have an experience. So what am I doing? I'm sitting, and as I become aware of myself as a soul, I look through the eye of the mind, and I touch, I connect, I absorb in the light of God. And I start to be influenced, and I experience that divine love or that pure love. And this is really the highest experience of the mind, which I really feel gives an inner strength that absolutely nothing else is able to do. But what is the effect of the shadows over the soul? The shadows really block out the light of the soul. They block out the peace. They suppress the love and the joy. But they also block out the light of God. I can have a belief, but I can't really have that connection. And meditation is really linking my mind and starting to draw on a quality of love, a quality of peace, a quality of power from a soul that remains an unlimited source of peace, purity, power, love, and happiness. And I think that when I'm able to do that, I'm able to find a resilience in myself which isn't influenced by the external world and which doesn't chronically absorb sorrow from others. Sometimes I think my mind is like a vacuum cleaner. We're empty inside. So when someone shows me a bit of love, when someone shows me a bit of respect, when they cooperate, I absorb it. But when they insult me, I absorb that. When they disrespect me, I absorb absolutely everything. The outside world is completely controlling my inner world. But as I begin to sow the seeds of stepping into my true self and stepping up to this relationship with God, I start not to be influenced, and I start to create the thoughts which I really want internally. And I would say my own personal experience is that I sit every morning when I wake up early in the morning and I become soul conscious, I become soul aware. And then through the eye of the mind, I sit in front of the light of God and I allow myself to be absolutely loved, completely loved. Nothing will make you healthier, nothing will make you stronger. What is wisdom? Wisdom is to observe, where do I block this love that we've always looked for? And when I observe where I block it, if I see a shadow, I remove it. And the more I'm able to maintain this self-awareness and this connection, it's a platform for a life where I can harness so much resilience. Because sometimes I feel that we not only have to step in, we not only have to step out of the shadows and step up into God's light, we all have to reach out to others. Because all of us are in a world where so many people are struggling. And at the heart of our relationships is communication. And you know, every time you connect with another person, you connect on 3 levels. One is your speech, second is your face, and third is your feelings. And do you know the non-verbal part of communication, your face and your feelings, accounts for around 80 to 90% of the impact of that communication. And so when people get 2 messages, one is what you say and one is what you feel, they always trust your feeling. You always trust your feelings. And some people wonder why people don't love me, why people don't come close to me. When I hold critical thoughts, when I hold negative thoughts in the sacred space of my mind, other people feel them. As you meditate, it's like you create a fragrance, a positivity in the sacred space of your mind. And it's like that awareness, your attitude propels it and it creates an atmosphere. And as you come in touch with people, they feel safe in your company. They don't feel judged. They feel that you're like supporting them. And so it's not only when you meditate that you empower yourself, it actually begins to create a more positive atmosphere in the family, in the community, and in the world. And I feel time is really asking all of us to step into that person we know we can be. Because I find when you step into God's love, you will step back into your self-respect. The greatest gift in life is to take back your self-respect. As much as you have self-respect, you can respect others. As much as you have self-respect, you will be humble. As much as you have self-respect, you will be loving and you will be loved. As much as you have self-respect, you won't be so influenced by all the changes happening around you in the world. And as much as you have self-respect, life becomes much easier. So I think tonight, it's lovely to really have the thought. Sometimes it seems like a big step. I understand. And you know how sometimes inside we say, I really would like to go there. I really want to step up. But. There's always a reason not to. You know how there's always a reason not to? I hope that you have the courage to say, yes, I'm going to try something. My feeling is to try meditation. If you don't do something for yourself in this world, you will just absorb the atmosphere, the anxiety. There's increasing anxiety and depression in our world. I've got to do something to protect the sacred space of my mind. And meditation is man's oldest way of doing it. So I think an act of love for myself is to really begin to practice meditation. And I feel that when you get into the habit of doing it, it will definitely step up your life. So thank you very much, everybody. I'm going to wind up there.